Stay sweet. Kind of a weird title for a weird message. But I think at some point in our life, according to Luke, it's going to be needed. Turn to Luke chapter 17 and verse number 1 for just a minute. I want to prelude the message with a verse that God says you can expect trouble. Luke chapter 17, verse number 1, it says, "It is impossible, but that offenses will come. But woe unto him through whom they come." God says you are not going to be able to live without somebody trying to offend you. I don't know whether it's going to be family, job, clients, the world, but somebody's going to try to offend you. You may as well expect it. You're not going to get through this life without somebody trying to hurt you. Whether it's verbally, physically, emotionally, or whatever. Somebody's going to try to offend you. I have a Ford 503 hay rake that I bought several years ago from a weed patch, and I rebuilt it. Put new pulleys and belts and stuff on it, and at the time, I went ahead and bought 2 belts. Because I knew with use, at some point along the journey, that other belt was going to break. Now, I've used it for several years. And I still have that belt. I found it yesterday just to be sure I still had it because hay season's coming up. And I still have that belt because I know it's going to happen. And it's going to happen at the time when I least expect it. And that's what God said about the offenses. See, all of the armor, the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes, and all of that stuff, you expect attacks from the front. But it's those sneak attacks from the back. There's no back plate. It's those knife stabs in the back of your back. It's those offenses. And it's going to happen. It may be the person in your church that you've done the most for. It may be the person on your job that you've trained and brought along and overlooked their discrepancies and brought them along. And then one day. It may be when you're trying to help someone, and then when you're not around, they talk about you like a dog. The Bible says the offenses are going to come. And oftentimes they come when you're doing the right thing. Go to 2 Samuel chapter 10. I'll tell you a little story. Obviously, I'm going to tell you the story. God's going to tell you the story. We're just going to talk about the story. 2 Samuel chapter 10. Verse number 1. "And it came to pass after this, that the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun his son reigned in his stead. And David said, I will show kindness unto Hanun the son of Nahash, as his father showed kindness unto me. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants for his father. And David's servants came into the land of the children of Ammon. And the princes of the children of Ammon said unto Hanun their lord, Thinkest thou that David doth honor thy father, that he has sent comforters unto thee? Hath not David rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city, and to spy it out, and to overthrow it? Wherefore Hanun took David's servants, and shaved off one half of their beards, and cut off their garments in the middle, even up to their buttocks, and sent them away. And when they told it unto David, he sent to meet them, because their men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, Tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return. We'll stop reading right there for a minute. But get the picture if you can. David had befriended king of Ammon. And the king of Ammon had befriended David. And because of this, when he died, David decided he would send some of his servants down to the funeral to comfort him because of his daddy being dead. And so the servants, David had lots of mighty men. David had lots of servants. David was a man of war after God's own heart. But that was not his intention. His intention was, just like in the days of Mephibosheth, when he said, "Is there any left of the house of Saul that I can show him kindness?" And so here he says, I want to send some servants down. I want to send some representatives down. I want to send some dignitaries down to the funeral. You know how our president does, or he sends some of his reps over to people's houses or to foreign countries or whatever. With our president, he loves to tweet. And so he tweets on there, my condolences go out to the servicemen and their families and all of this kind of stuff. And that's what David's intentions was to send his condolences to him for the loss of his father. But some of his little smart alecks in the kingdom said, "You don't really think David's sending kindness down here to you, do you?" That's not David's intention. David's intentions were to show kindness. David's intentions were to do a good thing. David's intentions were to comfort Haman because of the loss of his dad. But some of the little smart alecks decided they would turn it around. And they said to Haman, "He's not sending them down here to comfort you. He's sending them down here to spy out the land. He's trying to catch you at your moment of weakness. He's trying to set up spies in our kingdom and see where our forces are and see where our weak spots are and see where they can attack us and all of this made up stuff that he's doing." Sound familiar in your life? You try to do something good, you try to do something right, and it kind of backfires on you by somebody who's rotten attitude, or rotten spirit, or unwillingness to accept your kindness. Some people you just can't be nice to because they'll turn it around on you. And they said, "That's not why he's here." And so what they did is they took these two servants who, their only reason, they went to the funeral. They were not ready for fighting. They were gone down to the funeral to comfort. They didn't even have their swords with them. They didn't even have their shields with them. And because of these mouthy little brats in the kingdom that went to Haman and said, "They're coming down here to spy," they got these guys and they shaved half of their beard. I thought about doing that yesterday just as an illustration so you could really get a visual. And just shave this whole half. And still might do it. I don't know. That way I look like a 10-year-old on this side and a 60-year-old on this side. But you think about it. What an embarrassment. What a humiliation. And then we got the Forrest Gump effect there. They shaved their skirts off even up to their buttocks. And they didn't have no Fruit of the Looms back then. So I remember when I was deer hunting, and Waylon, you may remember it, but when you deer hunt and you take a shot at the deer and you miss, if you're in a club like we were, they cut your shirt off. They cut you, and that way everybody that just went around, and for the rest of that day, anybody that came in contact with you, you missed, didn't you? And these guys had to come all the way back with their butts hanging out and half their beard shaved off. But the only thing they were doing was what the king told them to do. The king told them to go down to the funeral and comfort this guy and send my condolences and make sure that if there's anything he needs to get through this trying situation, let me know. Been there? Now, can you imagine what they wanted to do? Can you imagine? These guys were... But they went back home. And David said to them, when he found out about it, he said, "You guys, don't come home. I don't want you to have to go through the humiliation and the embarrassment." He said, "You go down to Jericho. And if you look up the definition of Jericho, it means sweet fragrance. Stay sweet. When unjust things happen to you, stay sweet. Take a trip down to Jericho. Oh, I know what our first response is. I know what we want to do. When somebody shaves off half our beard and cuts off our drawers. I mean, how'd you like to walk around town with half your beard and your butt hanging out?
It's happened before.
But David said to spare you any embarrassment. Remember, David was the king. David said to spare you any embarrassment. You go hang out at the place of sweet fragrance. And you put your breeches on. And you hang out there until your beard grows back. See, in that culture, the beard was a sign. It was a symbol of manliness. And when somebody could take off half your beard, they were saying a whole lot of things about you that weren't true. Kind of like counting coup. The old Indian tribes, when they go riding out through, they didn't kill you. They just hit you with their coup stick to let you know I could have killed you. Now, how does that pertain to us? What does that have to do with us? The offenses are going to come. But see, God uses the worst that happens to you to bring out the best in you. See, the things that have happened to you that you thought were never going to be over, the things that hurt you the most, the things that people did or said to you that you thought was going to destroy you, God used that to bring out the best in you. New Zealand is an island somewhere over there. 41% of the birds on that island can't fly. You know why? There are no predators. There's no need for them to fly. They haven't developed the need to fly on that island because there's no predators. There's no snakes. There's no bobcats. There's no mountain lions. There's no need to fly. So they get to wallow around in the dirt all of their lives instead of soaring like an eagle. When airplanes take off, they want to know, one of the first things they want to know is which way is the wind going. And they want to go directly into the wind. Because the harder the wind blows, the faster they rise. You see, we think the opposition is out to destroy us. But it's God's way of helping us soar. There's going to be times in your life where you think it's going to destroy you, but it's actually going to make you. Some of the things we've been through in our lives that you didn't know how in the world you were going to make it through. The death of a loved one, a divorce, a sin of your own. You didn't think, man, I don't know how in the world I'll ever survive this. But God gave you the strength. Somebody saying something about you, somebody starting rumors about you, somebody cutting off your beard and skirt, trying to embarrass and humiliate you. See, God says all things work together. David sent down to meet the servants, and he said, you guys go hang out in Jericho till the embarrassment is over. See, God will give you a respite after the storm. Remember the prodigal son? How when the Bible says that the father saw him a long way off and ran out and met him? You see, there's about 15,000 different sermons in that. But one of the things in that is the father ran out to meet him. And where had he come from? The pig pen. Anybody ever been around a pig pen? This is sweet smelling fragrance, ain't it?
Smells like money.
It smells like money. That's what I told Rose yesterday about hay laying on the ground. It smelled like money out here. But what happened? The father ran out to meet him. And the first thing he did, anybody remember the first thing he did? Huh? He changed his clothes. He put a robe on him and a ring on him. He didn't want the rest of the crowd to know what he had been through. We know what he'd been through because the Bible reports it. See, he'd been hanging out in the pig pen. And when he came to himself, he said, I'm going to go home. And I'll be one of my father's servants. But the father ran out and missed him. He said, I don't want anybody to know what that boy's been through. So he changed his clothes, put a ring on his finger. Then he brought him to the house and said, it's party time. See, David did the same thing. He didn't want those guys to suffer any more humiliation than what they'd already suffered. Oh, I imagine they were hiding behind every tree, on the way back. Maybe got a bush or something put up there on their face. Look like when I'm deer hunting, got a branch hanging in front of my face, break up my... And when David heard about it, David sent out to me. He didn't wait for him to get there and for the rest of the town to go... He went out to meet them and he said, y'all go hang out in Jericho, the place of sweet fragrance. Get the revenge out of your heart. Get down there and get chilled out. Because, see, David had about 30, I think it was like 30 or 300 mighty men. And them dudes were some bad dudes. They were even badder than the Marines. And they could get home and they could just get steamy. And the more people, because people are going to snicker at them. They're coming in town with their butt, the beard's cut off. I thought them guys were men. Look at them. Tails hanging out. Beard shaved off. And can you just imagine the bitterness, the anger that would have built up inside of them? But David, the king, in his wisdom, to go hang out at Jericho, the place of sweet fragrance, and stay sweet. You went down there to comfort. You went down there to be an encouragement. Go stay sweet. The Bible says that root of bitterness springing up inside us. It's going to happen to you. Of Peter, I think it says, think it not strange these fiery trials that have affected you. It's going to happen. Anybody ever see Black Hawk Down's movie? You saw it? I didn't see it. I just read about it. But in one particular scene, they're just getting beat up. They're getting shot at. They're getting, half of them's been wounded and everything else. And you correct me if I'm wrong. But there's one particular scene where the man in charge, I guess is a sergeant or something, says, all right, everybody load up into the truck. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Let's retreat. And he tells one guy, he says, get in the truck. And he looks at him and he says, but I've been shot. And the sergeant looked at him and says, we've all been shot. Shut up and get in the truck. You're not sitting here on an island by yourself this morning. The person on your pew has been shot at too. The person on your pew has had some unjust things done to them. They've had some things that are said about him. These two got together. They probably hated each other about 3/4 of the time. Because he was probably mean to her.
Oh, yeah.
See? But she's forgiven him. Because you got to stay sweet. No matter what somebody else does to you, you got to stay sweet. Because if it don't, it'll ruin your life. It'll eat you alive. And it's not fair. But who said life was fair? Life is not fair. Very much life sucks and then you die. But God's grace is sufficient. Because the devil don't like you. Some of you he likes. But if you read the rest of I'm not going to read the rest of the chapter to you. I'm going to make you do that for homework. But the king said, I tried to be nice. Now it's over. And he got together a couple of armies and he went down there and just kicked butt. You read the rest of the chapter. Now, Exodus 14:14. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. In other words, shut up and get in the truck. The king's got your back. You go down to Jericho and stay sweet. The king's got your back. I know sometimes we get tired of waiting on the king. Because see, the king loves them too. It is. That root of bitterness springing up inside. If everybody thinks everybody loves the preacher. I had people stabbing me in the back almost daily. The more you try to help people, the more they want to jerk you around. And Jesus was a perfect example of that. He healed the multitudes, but he died alone. He fed thousands, but when the time was come when he needed something, they walked away. Even his own disciples, who had invested 3.5 years into daily teaching and guiding and helping and providing for, there's only a couple of them at the foot of the cross with him. You see, our words, our responses are kind of like nitroglycerin. If you look up nitroglycerin, it has the power to blow up bridges. But anybody in here got heart problems? What do they give you when you're having a heart attack? Nitroglycerin tablet. Because not only does it have the power to tear up bridges, it has the power to heal a heart. So, depending on your response, whether you heal or whether you blow up. Hold your peace and let the king fight for you. I found out that the king is far better at it than I am. I know we love the verse, vengeance is mine, period. I know we just want to do the Lord's work. Let me get them for you, God. There's some folks that I want to just twist their head till their eyes roll out on their cheeks. But God says you got to love them. Sometimes you got to love them and leave them, but just get them out of your life. Stay sweet. Because bitterness will eat you alive. Unforgiveness will eat you alive. It's far worse than any cancer ever dreamed to be. It'll rob you of your life. Tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return. See, you can put more drawers on. And you can grow your beard back out. See, those words that somebody said to you, they're temporary. Those evil things that somebody tried to do, they're temporary. That old thing, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, that's a crock. But I'd rather you hit me with a stick than say something nasty about me. I can tolerate a stick hit. I've been beat all my life. Yeah, I deserved it. I didn't think so then. But I've been hit with everything from switches to tree limbs to tobacco sticks. I even threatened to get shot a few times. But you know, everything I've gone through, I've been busted open all over my head. I've been hit. I've been spit on. I've been stabbed. I've had it all. And you know, I don't feel any of it today. Those scars have healed over. The spit's been wiped away. The words I don't even remember. But see, the beard grew back. But, had I chosen to stay bitter? Had I chosen not to let the Lord work in this old stony heart? Then vengeance would have been in my heart. Revenge would have been in my heart. And that would have been my focus. Is getting back. Getting even. Doing unto others before they have a chance to do unto you. Do unto others and then run. You know, you can turn it around any way you want to. But you got to stay sweet. Because God said in Luke chapter 17, verse number 1, it's going to happen. It's just like the belt on my hay rake. It's going to break. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to tick you off. Somebody's going to say something about you. I'm going to probably say something up here that you ain't going to like. You got a choice. You can stay mad or you can get right with God. And I'm to the place in my life, it really don't matter to me. Because what I try to do is preach this. And if you don't like this, take it up with God. Don't take it up with me. I don't want to be a ground-dwelling bird. I want to fly. I want to soar. I watch these pheasants run around, and to me that's just pointless. Get out there and run. You got wings, get up and fly. And I think about all these birds, emus and all that stuff. Emus and ostriches and all that mess, just run around. All they got to do is just run around. They can't ever get up and see stuff. We got that nest of swallows there on the porch at the house. And they just, nyong, nyong, nyong. Just fly. Man, that'd be cool. That's one thing I want to ask God to let me do when I get to heaven. Just fly around a little bit. Did you see this fat butt flying around heaven?
Skirt cut off.
Yeah, skirt. Yeah. I ain't wearing no drawers in heaven. I mean, my wings gonna have to be 20 foot long to get his body off the ground. Be like an albatross, can't take off from the ground. You got to get a running start, jump off a cliff. But I'm gonna fly. See, I want to fly here. I don't want to just wallow around in the dirt. And the only way I'm going to do that is stay sweet. Because I'll guarantee you something will try to offend me before this week is over. Might even before this day is over. Somebody might come up to me after church and say, Pastor, that's the worst sermon I ever heard. Why'd you even bother to come today? And they might not, too. Or I might get a text after church that says, I really needed that today, Pastor. You just never know. I had somebody... Had a dear lady in our congregation one time. She came and she said, I don't like the way you comb your hair. I said, okay. Start coming over at 7 o'clock on Sunday morning and fix my hair for me. Or I could have said, your face looks like caught on fire and they put it out with a bush axe too. But I didn't, Because you got to stay sweet. Even when they don't deserve it, you got to stay sweet. And let the King fight your battles. See, he's far better at it than we are. Anyhow, Heavenly Father, we thank you so very much for your multitude of blessings. God, help us to understand as we go forward for you this week. God, help us to be prepared for the evil that is going to beset us. And help us to bless those that curse us. Pray for those that despitefully use us.